Good morning. Good morning, lovely friends. Good morning. How are you doing there? How are you all doing? I haven't been on for a little while. I've been working on some new things. I've been working on my website. I've been working on some back end things. I've been working on some organizational things. I've been getting some things ready. And today I'm supposed to be connecting with a friend, Chuck Roundtree, to meet again. We were supposed to talk last week, but we were able to connect. Hopefully I'm going to be able to connect with him today to talk a little bit about self-love, my favorite topic, the topic that I share in my communities. Please join my love communities. If you're not in my love community, please leave a link, your name or an emoji below, and we'll make sure we get you into my love community. Here he is. Here is the man of the hour, the man that I've been looking for, Chuck Roundtree. Chuck also is in, the conscious space. He's running a conscious business down south, down in Texas. And I think it's important for people to know nowadays that, yes, you can make a career out of helping people and loving yourself and loving your life and doing a wonderful thing for yourself and your life. Chuck's doing that. And he's here with us today to talk a little bit about self-love, a little bit about how to do it. What's the secret to it all, Chuck? Brother, are you there? Can you hear me? No sound. I can't hear you, brother. Oh, no. Oh, no. Don't tell me now. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Oh, man. You want to try to go out and come back in and see if you can come back in. Sometimes that works. Maybe you can see if you can leave and come back in. Can you leave and come back in? Can you try to go and come back in? All right. While we're waiting for Chuck to come back, we're going to be talking about self-love if we can connect our technologies here today. I haven't been on as much. I've been working on, background elements, aspects. We've got to move on to the online world. I'm just learning how to navigate better in the online world. I'm working on how to present my. It's a funny thing when you're talking about how to love yourself. It's a very confusing thing for people. I think people get off track along the way trying to heal themselves with their love, but it is possible. But it makes it, we have a few zigzags that we've got to make in our mind, a little bit of change of mind. And that can be confusing. And so it's good to have a community. Hello?
Hey, can you hear me
All
now?
right, there he is. We got him.
I think a call was coming in, so I think the call bumped me.
Oh.
So let's see if this works now.
Yeah, brother.
Not gonna jinx it. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Sorry about last week. I'm tired of all the technical difficulties. It just happens, though. It just happens. So you just have to roll with it. It's like life.
You just got to roll with it.
You just got to roll with it. Yeah. But yeah. The self-love journey is definitely a unique journey, and it's different for every individual, right? Because every individual is on their own journey. So we can give best practices and trains of thoughts, etc. But it really is that person and how they take up that role and that journey and what their experience actually is. I mean, you and I were talking earlier about just how there have been some similarities in what we've been experiencing, but yet we've been experiencing in our own unique way. So, and dealing with it in our own unique way of how we roll through it. So, yeah, and what I think we maybe talked a little bit about chatting about today was pretty much our language, right? And when we get into this journey and being conscious about how we're moving through that. And a lot of times we move so fast in our life, be it all of the media that hits us every day, social media, television, people at work, family, all of that. There's all this information coming at us. And a lot of times we're just in trying to make it through mode, right? Just muddling through all of the stuff that's coming at us. And we don't necessarily pay attention to what we're actually truly saying to ourselves or saying about ourselves. And I told you earlier, I've really discovered that I'm the bully on the playground for myself. Because I really allow people around me to talk like that about themselves. Yet when I'm by myself, I can talk like that about myself, and that's not the most healthiest thing, right? Because you know, the Buddha says, with our thoughts we make the world, and that really is the truth. Like, we are the creator of our kingdom, I like to say, and the ruling party is how we're speaking and talking and behaving that way through our words and what we're communicating. So it's really an important thing, I think, for people to stop and actually start to take note of what they're actually saying, about themselves, about a condition, about a goal, about a dream, about a desire. You know, a lot of times I think we got wired in to look at more of the negative than the positive, or how it's not going to happen more than it's going to happen. And when we get into this journey of self-love, right, we really have to be cognizant of how we're approaching it from our words, because they are the creator, they are the power. And I've been in conversation with a lot of people over the last couple of years doing some of this work, and it's really interesting that sometimes I would say, do you know what you just said? And there's really no concept really that much of what they actually had spoken, right? And sometimes it's happened to me where people have said, you said what? You know, what did you say? And I have to go like, wait, what did I say? So it is a practice, right? We have to slow down. And one of the key things that one of my coaches early on taught me was, when I make a statement that's not in alignment with my highest and best, that I automatically say, no, that is not the truth of me. And then I restate it. And so what I learned, taking it to heart and really practicing that, was in the beginning, I was saying no a lot. And so much so it was, you know, it was concerning to me. Like, this is what I've been telling myself this whole time. This is me now really paying attention to what I'm stating. And then I realized, like, I didn't have to say it out loud so much anymore, but I was saying it mentally to myself. And then finally the day started to come where I was like, wow, I don't even hear the no anymore. So I've started to convert that thought. I've started to convert that way of being, where I'm speaking more in resonance with my highest self. And by doing so, things can start to change, right? And so that's one thing. Even now, still, if I'm having a difficult day, I'll just go to my whiteboard and I'll write something on there about what I'm feeling. So trust has been up for me a lot. So I go to the whiteboard and I say, I do not trust myself. And I look at that and I'm like, that's not the truth of me. So what is my truth? Well, my truth is, I do trust myself in every moment. That's the truth. So I'll leave them lined up like that for a couple of days on my board, just so I can come back to it and go, Remember, you didn't think you trusted yourself, but you know you do. So don't claim you don't, right? And so it is a practice, it's an ongoing practice because every day is different, you know, every breath is different, every breath can truly be different. So we have to just look at what's up for us in that moment and what we're fully expressing. And I no longer give myself a pass, or really doing the work with someone else, I don't give them the pass either to say, I don't know. Because the truth of the matter is, we are gifted with divinity and sovereignty, right? We are sovereign beings. And by that, whatever is needed is provided. We are equipped for that.
But then you see, this is where there has to be a belief in that, right? And
Yeah,
this is a
yeah,
big thing, is that, you know, in order to believe in that, you kind of have to practice that. And so, you know, like you said, in every moment and every day, like you have to rise and come to the practice of these things, like rising and coming to the practice of a positive dialogue daily, a positive affirmative practice, a
yeah,
positive way of thinking and speaking to yourself. You've got to get up and get into that sort of habit and practice to start believing in that. Like the belief comes as you practice it. It doesn't come before you practice it. This is the thing. Like sometimes
right.
you have to like engage with it for a period of time before you understand that what we're saying here.
Yeah.
That's the trouble, is that it doesn't happen, you know, it's not instantaneous. And
Mm-hmm. It is a belief, right? Because you, in this journey, you're resetting your belief structure, right? So just like any belief, it takes time to kind of wash the old belief out and create the new belief, the new pattern, right? And what I would say to people starting off with this is get in resonance with the fact that you know that's what you're doing, right? You are changing a behavior, you're changing a train of thought, which means the old one's going to keep playing until it loses its battle, right? And it becomes a new way of thinking. So the best thing you can do is start slowly, pay attention, actually make an agreement with yourself to be conscious, be more conscious about what you're saying. So if
fail.
you're in that, right, and you're in that process, and you're used to moving fast, because we all move fast regardless, we all move fast. And so if you're in that process, just all of a sudden going, wait, hit the brake. I need to hit the brake. Let me really think about what I just said, like what is happening right now. So yes, you have to get into a belief structure that, well, hey, you have to get a belief structure that you are a sovereign being, right, that has this capability. So there's a whole spiritual path that you can go down to acclimate yourself into that understanding. A lot of people, like, they don't speak affirmatively about what they're actually doing. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I thought of somebody, and lo and behold, they called or they texted me, or that kind of thing. It's like, I'll sit there and go, well, you actually manifested that. That's the power of your mind. Like, you're putting that out there, and you're actually placing the order for the universe to bring that into you, right? And they're like, huh, really? It's like, yeah. So then the inquisitive mind kicks in, right? And so you want to test it out, right? So I believe that when you start to get into the train of thought of, I'm going to hold myself accountable to what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, which means I'm going to have to slow down and pay attention to that. So now I've got to slow down, which for a lot of us is hard to do, right? And for me, it started more like, okay, just stop, take a breath. What's happening right now? Is this in alignment with what I'm seeking? Yes or no? And a lot of times it's like, no, that's not going to get me where I want to go. So what is needing to be said so that I can get to where I want to be? I can get to that manifestation I'm looking for. And it becomes, what I've discovered is over time, it becomes just that, like I just do still on a daily practice of writing stuff down on the whiteboard. I don't trust myself. That might have been what I said, but the reality is that's not the truth. But if I keep saying that, the universe is going to keep delivering me ways to see that I don't, where it might show up. And it's back to kind of the root mantra practice that my prayer partner and I are doing for a extended period of time. And what I discovered early on in it was like, wow, I'm being shown all the ways I'm not grounded. I'm claiming groundedness, and it's bringing forth how I'm not, so that I can course correct to get grounded. So just because you're claiming something doesn't actually, not everything's sunshine and roses, right? So we have to move through that process knowing that the outcome is possible. And what's really key for us is just to get into alignment with that what I'm actually saying is creating my reality. One of my newest ones that I've come up with that have really helped in some of these really rough moments is I just sit there and I realize it's a little chaotic right now. Energies are a little crazy out there. There's a lot going on, and I'll just sit there and I'll just tell myself, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
This is I'm safe, I'm
Yes.
safe. Things are okay.
Mm-hmm.
Things are okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm safe, right? Because the message that's around us is fear. A couple of things that you said that kind of stood out in my mind. You mentioned, at arriving at understanding of this self-love, you talked about kind of going through a little spiritual journey, a little spiritual walk there. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a touchy one for people when you start saying spirituality. Like, as soon as you say spirituality, people feel like either you're pushing something on them, or maybe you're challenging what they believe, and they don't, and they think it's almost bad to alter the way they think about their spirituality, because this is the way you're supposed to think about spirituality. This is the right way. This is, once you kind of get into that right and wrong way of doing things, we start falling into the trap of, blaming someone else for the way that they think, or thinking someone's bad because they think one way or another way, or thinking one school of thought is better than another school of thought. So, spirituality, whenever that comes up, it's a touchy thing for people. They can automatically get defensive when you say you need to do a little bit of spiritual work there, or change your spirituality. Change my spirituality? Wait a second. What do you mean by that? What does that mean, to change my spirituality? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm. I think I'll put it to you this way, because spirituality and religion to me are very different. But I don't want to get into that because that's a whole nother ball of wax. You could take spirituality if you want. You can take the word spirituality out of it, right? And replace that with highest and best for self, right? Because we can all get into alignment with what's in my highest and best for me, right? Because that's what we're all ultimately seeking, to live and operate
Which
in
to
our
me is
highest and best state.
spirituality, which is to me, so I don't have a problem with the word spirituality, nor do I have a problem with challenging my spirituality or thinking about my spirituality myself. But I know some people do.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's always, it's, religion, politics, all these things can be very touchy situations. Even if we don't think they are for us, whenever it comes up, we might get a little uncomfortable around it, right? So it's really, this whole journey isn't about necessarily finding God or spirit type thing. It's about finding you, right? And depending on your path of understanding of any of that or all of that, right? Because let's face it, we are involved in a world where all the information's at our fingertips 24/7, right? So we are all getting aspects of everything all the time. And it's up for us to determine all that coming in. What is that? And we also understand that it doesn't have to be just one way, right? It can be a melting pot of ways for us to get to that centered self, right? So I have a certain path that I went on because I had a certain outcome in mind that I wanted, which was to know myself and to build a life that had a foundation that no matter whatever happened to me, that foundation could not be rocked, right? That was an ongoing way of life for me. And so now I can use that in the journey of self-love, right, as an element of support. So my quote unquote spirituality is a level of support I use and call on to help me in the process of loving myself, right? So when I speak of this, this is really, to me, talking about how we talk about ourselves, how we engage with others about ourselves, or allow others to speak to us in certain ways, in certain manners, right? I look at people, regardless of what is actually happening, I do come from a place of this is quote unquote divinity in front of me right now. I am equal to this. They are equal to me. There is no less than, more than. We are one and the same. And it really has helped me in the process of learning who I am even deeper. And when what I know to be true is if I can do it, that train of thought for me says, if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? But I know in working with people that it has to be their way. Like, you can give me step 1 through 10 of how to love yourself, right? And I might look at that and go like, well, these 3 really worked for me. And then I read about these other 2 or 3 over here, and those kind of work for me more, right? We have to create that path for ourselves and understand what's really working for us. And so when we talk about the way we speak about ourselves, that is preeminently setting the tone for how we're going to live our life and what we're going to call into it, period. That's just how it is. We don't like people coming and talking to our children. Like, we wouldn't want somebody to come and say to our kid how worthless they are or how undeserving they are of something, because that's not what we know to be true, and we know that that's not the actual truth. So why would we talk that way about ourselves? And so when I started to sit and really turn things around on myself and took in the understanding of like, well, what if what I say is creating my reality? Then let me get really centered and focused on how I'm using my language, and let me just see what happens. Let me see if using empowering thoughts and words start to shift the way I think about myself, my capability, how other people engage with me and interact with me. And then the other part for me, which was part of that slowing down, was to listen very intently. And not only what I was saying, but what I was hearing. And choosing to either really take that in or let it pass through as, okay, well, that's your thought. That's not my thought, right? And that's what's gotten us into a lot of trouble that we find in our life, is that we've been taking in information and accepting it as the truth, and not holding our conscious higher self saying, well, okay, that's your opinion, I have my opinion, right? So,
and it's okay for someone else to have their own opinion,
yeah,
and share their opinion, but it doesn't mean that I need to take that opinion. So I can say, okay, that's okay, you can have that opinion, you can hold that opinion, but that's not my opinion, and this is why, and that's okay, and it's okay for us to have different opinions or see things a little bit different way. We all have to do that in our own way. I
Yes.
really like that you brought up the children, because I think with the children, it really changes. When we start talking about relationships, it can really change. Some people, feel that that they should always let the children be in front of them. And and I think for young children, yes, I understand this a lot. The first 7, 8 years, 10 years of life, child is very dependent, and the parent must put the child first all of the time. But at some point there, the parent has to learn how to, like, take back themselves in the presence of the children. Like, once the child, starts reaching 15 and, between 15 and 20, and they start to move away from the parent, from 10, they're already doing this.
Yeah.
The parent feels the child running away from them, and it's just such an opposite experience. And if the parent doesn't learn how to collect themselves and love themselves in the presence of their child, with their dialogue, with the way that they're thinking, with the way that they're speaking to themselves about themselves and their child, they're going to end up with some unhappiness. They're going to be going through some serious problems with those children once the children get to those more independent ages. Like, relationships don't work if we don't know how to love ourselves first. And dialogue is a huge part of that. And challenging the way that we think and speak, because the way that we think and speak has, created whatever we've got. If we want to get something else, we've got to think and speak differently. It's taking responsibility. I think those are two things that I heard in your message, talking about the children, talking about relationships, talking about dialogue. It's about taking responsibility for your own dialogue, for your own creation. And it's about, there's again, belief. Like, you've got to believe that you're responsible for what's happening to you. And if you've got sickness, illness, disease, or problems in your relationship, you've got to own that.
Yep. For sure. And I think this was in one of your recent posts, just specifically about family and children and stuff, is the necessity, right? In this conversation, in this moment, talking about the kids, it's a necessity, but it's a necessity in our life as adults, to adults and with adults, is leading by example.
Modeling.
Right? We can, everybody's like, you talk a good game, but actions speak louder than words a lot of times, right? So when you're leading by that example and modeling that, well, that sticks deeper a lot of times, because it's like, and then if you say, this is what we do, well, you've demonstrated that. So it's like an alignment, right? So it goes in and resonates deeper. And for us as adults, working adult to adult, we ourselves as the individual have to lead by example of how you can treat and speak to me, right? What is okay? And there's that thought that says, how I love myself teaches you how to love me, right? Same thing, leading by example.
I can't see any other way. To learn to love someone else better is changing your relationship with yourself and learning how to love yourself better. And dialogue plays a role, and daily practice plays a role. Lifestyle with that new dialogue, that daily commitment to be committed to what I'm thinking and saying daily. That's a lifestyle. It has to be a habit. It has to become a practice, a daily dialogue. I think we also got to consider and discuss that, nutrition plays a role here.
Absolutely.
Food plays a role with how we love ourselves. If we're not eating properly, we're not loving ourselves.
For sure.
And that's going to trickle down and show up in all of our life. Why don't you share a little bit about your experience with changing your dialogue and what you're finding with feelings or emotions or shifts in your energy when you make changes to your nutrition? What have you found?
Yeah, well, we talked about this a little bit earlier, which was me going through the water fasting and going down this path, right, of just changing diet up because I feel it is necessary for me. I feel like I can do a lot of inner work, like on my consciousness. I can do that, but I still need to fuel my body accordingly to help me in that process as well. And so going through the process of changing up the diet and having those net impacts come up, right? Of finding myself in the kitchen, right? Because it might be 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So behaviorally, that's where I should be finding myself because I'm supposed to eat around that time. And finding myself in the kitchen going, what am I feeling right now? What do I need to be in here? I don't need to be in here. Maybe I just want some water. Like, and that is a behavioral shift that is happening within me just because I changed my way of looking at food and engaging with food. And then as I mentioned to you as well, it's like it was stopping in the moment before engaging with the food and going, is this necessary? Or am I eating an emotion right now? Or am I eating because I'm literally hungry and I need the nutrition? And the discovery over the last week or so has been, A, I don't need that much food. And B, I've already felt better physically. I've actually lost some weight as well, which is a nice side effect. But it is showing me, another level of consciousness at play. So this that I'm doing with my words and watching what I'm saying and when I'm saying it, how I'm saying it, what I'm demonstrating to other people, the same dance is happening in my food. Like, wait a minute, I learned a behavior here that is not actually operating in my highest and best. That I've learned in a very short period of time, slowing down, being aware, paying attention, how much food, how many times I was eating to eat an emotion or to eat a feeling, so to speak, versus my body going, hey, Chuck, you need this to keep your body running. And so I've actually also been able to experience emotions coming forward, and that's something that you help me understand too. It's like when you don't medicate that emotion, right? When you don't cover it up, it's standing there. You gotta look at it. You gotta deal with it. You gotta feel your way through that, right? And because doing the old behavior of stuffing it down is no longer acceptable, and it's no longer acceptable, and it's easier to do and to follow suit and not taking the food, but maybe having some water instead, because I love myself. It is part of the journey of loving self even deeper, right? And seeing that it's like another level being peeled off of like, wow, you've done a lot of work over the last decade on your interior, consciously, philosophically, all of these things, mentalities, all of that. And this is the next dance that is necessary, right? Your engagement with food, how you're doing it, how you're feeding your body, how you're nourishing your body. So if you can get in alignment with nourishing your body and your mind, what lies ahead for that, right? That excitement of wanting to see those two things come to merge together, where it all becomes the way of life.
I think you hit it right there with nourishment. Like, we are nourishing ourselves by the dialogue that we have inside of ourselves. We are also nourishing ourselves with the food that we put inside of ourselves.
Yes.
We're trying to step into our higher self. We're trying to connect with that higher energy bit of ourself. And by shifting our nourishment, our thought and word nourishment, our nutritional nourishment, this is how we come to find the higher self inside. This is how we come to know that energy that's within us. And this is what we're trying to align with. We're trying to get aligned with ourselves. We're trying to get aligned with our higher self. We're trying to love ourselves. It's to come into alignment with that higher energy that's within us. How to find it? Well, take the food away and take away the negative thoughts and words,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like begin to speak nicely to yourself to find yourself. Take
Mm-hmm.
away a little bit of the physical nourishment and you'll start to find that energy that's below. And sometimes when that energy starts to come up, it doesn't feel so nice. And I think that's why people want to run away and feed themselves, because some darkness starts to come up. Like as soon as you take the food away for a day or two, you start to see and feel some emotional stuff starting to come up that you don't like, and then you want to feed yourself to kind of cover it up. But the truth of the matter is that darkness that you're feeling is the suppressed you. It's
Yeah.
the energy that's been held down through food and drug and negative thought and word. And when you start to peel away the things that are holding it down, it starts to come up and then it doesn't feel good. But listen, you've decided it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you can be with that feeling and you can speak differently to it and about it. Just
Yes.
because all of a sudden you feel something that in the past you've always associated with, oh, that's a bad feeling, but you've labeled it a bad feeling. Why does that have to be a bad feeling? And what's so bad about it? And why can't I just sit and be comfortable with that part of me? Like that's a part of me too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
understand that there's two sides of me. There's kind of like two poles. There's that masculine part, and then there's that feminine part. There's a part of me that is always kind of held down, and then there's the part that's the personality that I show. And then the other part, it's like, oh, that part's no good. I want to hold that back. But like, I need to integrate that part into my life to be whole and well. I need to see and feel and be around that part and find some comfort inside of that discomfort, some peace with that piece of me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, it's also understanding, and this is my train of thought on that and why to do that, is that there isn't anything operating that isn't operating for our highest and best. Like you say, we label it. We might label it like that's not good. That doesn't feel good to me. I don't like that. And sometimes we run the other way or we bury it with something or whatever that is, right? Because we've determined
Escape.
ourselves that it's not good, quote unquote, right? But when I started to understand that there is immense love for each and every one of us out there from the universe, and that just like a parent, it's not going to conjure up stuff for us that is going to be like so detrimental to us. It's how, like you say, how we label the experience. So then we experience it that way. So if we say not good, then we experience not good. But as I've gone back and to do the work, because when you work on your inward consciousness like that, and you have to go back and reconfigure some thoughts, right? Especially
Change your
around,
mind.
yeah, these deep-seated things, maybe stuff that has been deeply traumatic to us. What, you know, sometimes for people it could be somebody that they care about in passing saying just something within seconds, and it shifts their whole world. Or for somebody else it could be, you know, physically much more dramatic, you know, some deeper trauma. But we have to go back and sit in that and mine that and understand, like from a perspective of kind of like what you were saying, when we relabel it, instead of saying, that's not good, that was really horrible, don't ever want to experience that again, and all these things that we're piling on top of it, right, to beat it down and lock the door. When we go back to open that up and we sit there and go, what was this to teach me? This is here to teach me something, because it has an element that's working for me. So what is that? And it's really difficult work sometimes to do that, because you've set that mentality around it so deeply that now you got to like pull it back up, right? And go, okay, hold on, wait a minute. I thought you were my enemy. We might be frenemies, but I need to make you a friend at some point so that we can exist together, right? And
we need alignment. Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole other level of construct of thought coming in at play, because that can be very painful for people to have to go back and relive. But I've seen it happen where they have been able to go back, pull it forward, and deal with it as if it's another individual or aspect of self that they need to find their way to love, find the love in that, the healing that's within that. Why did I go through that? What was the need here, right? And like a lot of times we say this, like, if I have to do that, if I'm going to have to go through that, then I'm getting X, Y, and Z out of it, right? We make these agreements, right? And it's like, well, here's one of those that maybe you didn't feel like that was, you didn't call that, but it happened. It's the same kind of thing. So, okay, I had to go through that. Why? What did I learn? What's operating in me right now that's really a benefit to me that might not have been playing if I had not had that? And that's a deeper process of working back, peeling back, looking at that, right? But it is what we go through when we shift our nutritional intake, like you're talking about. And people need to understand that. Like the piece just in talking to you a little bit earlier about like, whoa, that was covered up emotion, because I was labeling it emotion because that's what it was feeling like, right? But I hadn't locked the visual in of that clearing the inner system, right? And that's really what we're doing. We're removing these layers and these levels that we've just packed on top of each other, right? And it's really now like we're having this conversation, all of a sudden these little files are opening up in my head, and I'm like thinking about things I like to eat, and it's like, wait, am I eating those is something happening when I'm eating those? Like, is there a habit formed? Like whenever I experience this, I eat Cheetos. Whenever this experience, I eat ice cream, or this experience, I eat mac and cheese, or whatever that is, right? But it's like, I really now, this is what I love. This is the game of life. This is where we get really curious about stuff in our life, right? So now just this little train of thought makes me think of like the next time I have a desire for something that I know isn't in my highest and best from a nutritional perspective, what's happening to me right now? What's going on? Is there commonality? Like, do I go to certain things for certain emotions, right? Certain levels of emotions. What is my gravitational pull to, right? And over the weekend, man, I have to say, there was a couple of times that I kept saying, I need some comfort food. I want some comfort food right now.
I think we need to have comfort food on the weekend.
I
think it's a part of our nature to have an expression of our creator and an opportunity for the destroyer as well too. Like recognizing that there are two sides to ourselves, and holding one side back is not a solution. You can do that for a while, like you can go on to an extreme diet for a long periods. Like, I'm not eating that anymore. I'm putting that out of my life. That's bad. That's no good. But you know what? If that's how you're approaching your life, that right there is one-sided, and that's imbalanced, and that's not what it is either. And I don't teach that. I teach that it has to be a little bit of both. and we have to allow that. Like if I want to make my life get better, I need to do the better things most of the time. I say over a 7-day period, like you're talking about 4 days, like Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, I'm doing my best with my foods. I'm doing my best with my fasting. I'm doing my best with my thoughts and my words. And then on the weekend, if you want to do a little relax and have a few flex meals, if you want to have a little bit of flexible food, I think you need to do that.
Yeah.
And then you have to like pull it back again on Monday. I say New Food Monday. It's like we're starting again. We're making another recommitment to our very best. It's not about eliminating things. It's about creating a little bit of a new balance with things in my life. Taking something away to find out what's hidden behind it, sitting with what's hidden behind it, and changing the way that I think and speak about what's hidden behind it. This is the way that I change my life. If I've got sickness, illness, or disease in my body or life, if I've got pain, if I've got body weight problems, if I've got a self-image problem, a relationship problem, or a financial problem, I can attack and address all of them the same way energetically. I can start connecting to my higher self, and my higher self will bring the very best health, wealth, and relationships into my life. If I can start to rise up my higher self, rise up my energy body, rise up my emotional body, do things that pick up my energy body. Those are movements, breathing, conscious breathing, positive thoughts and words, visualization, nutritional change, and then sitting with this energy that comes up and treating it lovingly rather than telling yourself it's bad. It can't be bad. You can't have a bad part of yourself.
Right.
You know,
right.
if we're talking about spirituality, here it comes again. You know, God created the all, everything in 6 days. On the 7th day, he rested and looked at it all and said, you know what? It's good. So somehow we have to find the good in what has happened. So if something bad has happened in our life, we may need to go back to it and sit with it again and go, was that truly a bad thing that happened? Or was it, you know, it's not all bad. Can you see how, you know what, it kind of needed to go that way in order for me to learn and see and do and discover this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just take that one step further.
Please.
Right. In the seeking the good, because that is another element to all of this, right? Knowing that things are operating for me and I have to see that and understand that and look at this, right? But it's also not just after the fact, but it's also before the fact. So we go into a lot of things in our life every day, work, relationships, situations, all the time, right? And we have a predisposition about what it's going to be, right? And a lot of times if it's something we don't want to do, we're sitting there going like, oh gosh, man, I don't want to do this. I just want to get it over with. I don't like this. I don't ever like going to these things. Like we set in motion an outcome that we've already said that we're already creating that motion that's going to happen, right? And so when we go into something like that, before we do, we have a conscious thought about it, like I'm doing this because of an agreement or whatever. I'm having to do this action. So instead of me sitting there going, I don't want to do this, and there's, I just want to get it over with, just sit there and go, this is happening. This is going to happen. So I'm going to go and just look for the good in it. Like, what is my goodness that's going to come from this? Am I going to meet somebody that's going to lead me to somebody else, or a job or opportunity or whatever that is? Or am I going to, like, hear something I haven't heard before that's going to change the way I live my life, or whatever that might be? Uh, and that to me has shifted a lot of stuff in my world, from probably half the stuff I used to go and have to do. I pretty much had that attitude about it, and pretty much got that attitude from it, until I started going, I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to go because I'm really curious why I'm supposed to go. What's there for me? What's going to happen? Right? For my good.
Why am I resisting this? Why am I resisting this work? Why am I resisting this job, or this task, or this thing? And usually it's, the way we're thinking or speaking about it. And we don't want to go there for whatever reason. We've built up a lot of negative talk and word about it. We need to change our dialogue.
Yeah.
We need to stop creating pain for ourselves. The dialogue is a humongous part of it. We have to take responsibility for the things that we're thinking and saying and doing, recognizing that we're creating our sickness, our disease, and our joy and our happiness too. We are the creators of all of this. And if we want more joy and happiness in our life, we've got to get more positive with the way that we're thinking and speaking, not only about ourselves, but also about our family, about our friends, about our children, about the people living on the other side of the world. Mm-hmm. We have to be conscious about how we're putting out our energy with our thoughts and our words in each of our moments. This is the way that we are creating our reality, the way that we're thinking and speaking right here, right now. This is what's creating the next moment. We have to change our dialogue. It's important to practice this. It has to become a part of our conscious lifestyle. We have to bring it into our life in order to become successful with it. Health is not just an idea. It's a practice. It's a habit. It's a behavior. It's a lifestyle. This is how I got sick, was an unhealthy lifestyle. It's going to be a new healthy lifestyle that's going to make me happy, healthy, and well. Dialogue is a big part of that.
Sure. It's like anytime we make a change, right? And it's usually something that we're unfamiliar with. One of the things that we usually try to get right off the bat is support, a coach or a good friend or somebody that's like going to kind of partner with you on that, right? And the inner work, there's all of that available, right? We're living proof that availability is there, but we also have to accept the responsibility that we are truly the best coach we can be to ourselves, because there's nobody that's going to hold us accountable the way we can hold ourselves accountable. There's nobody that can be with us as much as we're with ourselves and know our every move and our every thought and our every sense of self. So for us, it is, just critically important to make the agreement with yourself, and make it because you love yourself, out of love of self, that you want to make all these changes, or whatever changes you are looking to make in your life, right? Because when you don't agree and get in alignment with the necessity of living your highest and best, you're just creating, as you're talking about, resistance. You're out of resonance with that train of thought. And for things to really shift and move, alignment is key. Your understanding and your resonance with your desire that is in alignment with your highest and best is adamantly important. And I will say, maybe having that warrior spirit about it, like even with yourself. So I know we have to sometimes be our greatest cheerleader, right? We have to be, have conversations with ourselves all the time, like, look, we got into this, we know what we were getting into, and we're not giving up. we're staying with this. I'm not
Takes
going
courage
anywhere.
sometimes. It takes courage
Yes.
to be that warrior, to kind of go into a situation, go into a dialogue, go into a relationship. You know, we have to have an uncomfortable conversation. It needs to be an uncomfortable conversation or thought with ourselves or with others. We have to have the courage that
Yeah.
if I go in there and meet this uncomfortable thing, that the result will be something better. Like I will
Mm-hmm.
learn and grow. Like it's this overseeing belief that all things are serving my greatest good. Like, do you believe that? Or,
Right.
you know, or are you still living in a rudimentary belief that, you know, there's this bad thing out there that's doing it to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to take responsibility. The
Yeah.
true authentic teaching is, you know, all things are supporting you. Truly, the
Yes.
thing that's not is inside of your mind.
Yeah.
The bad guy is inside of you. The
Yeah.
darkness is a dark, scary thought that you put in your head. It's the way you think and speak about something that's creating the problem.
Yeah.
Truly, the support is continuously light, white light support. This is what everything is for your best.
Yes.
Trusting and
Absolutely.
believing in that. That's faith. That's a
Mm-hmm.
belief. That's expanding your spiritual understanding. That's challenging your spiritual understanding. I believe that everything is serving my greatest good. This is a thought and a word practice. It's rising and saying, I believe that this is what is best for me in my life. And what is going to happen here is something wonderful from this
Yeah.
circumstance, situation, sickness, illness, disease, relationship. It's going to move me forward and grow me in a better way.
Yes. Absolutely. It's why you're doing it. That's the whole thing, right? It's that being worthy, being deserving of all that is there for you to have, and all that we desire in our life, right? I think as we go down the path, we might have a thought in mind about what that outcome is going to look like, but I tell you, the more and more work that you do and you stay true to it and you're diligent about it, more and more cooler stuff tends to show up as well, right? So, the saying that the journey is never over, the work is never done, right? That's really the truth, but it shouldn't be debilitating, that thought. It should be inspiring, because there's always something ahead of you. There's always something to reach for,
And
always
it's
something to
better.
strive for.
And it's
And it's
better.
better. And
And
it's
it's going
better.
to be better. You may have to go through a little fear, a little darkness, a little, there needs to be a little courage. You got to push into a little discomfort. You're going to have to go through a little bit of, you know, cold days, but you will break through, and what you break
Yeah.
through to will be something better. And it's always
Yeah.
pushing into something more, and it's trusting and believing that it's not something scary and bad. It's going to be something better for you in your life.
Yeah. 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 It's those things that we have a hard time wrapping our consciousness around, because can it really be? Can it really be? And you just have to keep saying, yeah, it can be. Yeah, it will be. It is, right? We kind of whittle it down to just making it declarative. It is, right? It is. It is. And it will be, for sure. So, really cool. Great conversation, John. I appreciate it
Chuck,
once again.
good to connect with you as usual.
Yeah.
Glad we got together. Good for me. Good for me to have dialogue about self-love, pulling me forward through relationship with you. Thank you for the dialogue. Thank you for sharing. We're talking about self-love, how to do it, how it comes into reality. I appreciate your time, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Always. Thank you. Thank you to your community too. Appreciate it. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you, brother.
Ciao.
See you later.